Well, good morning, everyone. This is Natasha Telger with the LMI WorkNet, located in Springfield, Illinois. And we'll be starting in about 1 minute. We'll give everyone an opportunity to join us. Today, we will be using, we have two audio options. You can use your headphones on your computer or your computer speakers and listen to the webinar that way. Or you can call into the conference call number. Either option that you choose, you will be able to ask questions at any time using the chat pod right below the video. If you are joining us using the conference call line towards the end of the webinar, then we will give you an opportunity to ask questions. So we call it an open forum. So we'll start that open forum at the end of the webinar or towards the end of the webinar. And you'll press *#, and that will give you the floor so that you can ask questions. Okay, so it is 10 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. I do want to point out that I did send an email out to everyone this morning with a link to download materials. I understand that you might not have had an opportunity to do that yet. So we do have what we call a file share pod, and it's in the middle lower part of your screen, and all you simply do is just click on the file name and download that to your computer. If you don't have those, if you haven't had an opportunity to do so yet, don't worry about it. We'll make sure that those are available to you at the end of the webinar as well. We do have some polling questions. If you could, go ahead and answer those polling questions if you haven't already done so. We'd like to find out, get a better idea of when the summer youth employment programs are starting, as well as what's your mix of participants. Do you have new participants? Do you have returning participants, or a mixture of both? Also, we'd like to find out, when is your program ending, because we do understand that they do begin and end at different times. So I do want to do a real quick audio check. Here's our list of attendees, and I want to make sure that you're able to hear me either through your speakers or on the phone. And if you could do so by either typing in the chat pod or right below in the lower, left-hand side of your screen, there's a little person with his hand holding up. So if you could select one of those options, then I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me just fine. Okay? So we can see everybody's raising their hands. I'll go ahead and move that off to the side so we can see. But it looks like so far so good. We are doing just wonderful. Okay. So let me go ahead and we'll go ahead and jump in and get started. Now, one of the materials for you to download is the process flow. And this is a PDF document, and it basically the format we're going to use today is we're going to walk through this process flow. It correlates with the PowerPoint, so we try to have the color coding. The areas that are yellow are primarily the workforce professionals. That's your role within this process. And when we get to the blue areas, those are where the participants are actually completing information or doing something. So this is available to you, but I just wanted to point that out to you because sometimes it just kind of helps to be able to see the map of the entire process. So let me go ahead. I'm going to jump over to our PowerPoint. Okay, let me make this bigger for you. And so we're going to go through the PowerPoint. I'm going to also give you a demonstration of some of the new activities. I want to point out that the activities are not available right now. With the new format, it's not available right now. They will be released next week, the week of May 17th. So, but there are some things that we can go through and lay the groundwork, do some of the groundwork ahead of time before it's actually released. So let me go ahead and jump in. Today we'll talk about, we're going to start at the very beginning. We need to make sure that everybody has access to the Workforce Professionals Pathway, because that's where you have all the resources and the guidance and the place for you to ask questions. Okay. Then we'll talk about the activities, and we have for the new and returning activities that we have. We'll talk about the pre and post assessments, and then we'll also take a look at, from a customer's perspective, what they can, what they will be seeing. Okay. So to start out with, we need to make sure that all of those individuals that are going to be working with the Summer Youth Employment Program and the participants, that they have an Illinois WorkNet account. That's our way, and specifically a Workforce Professionals account, because that's our way of being able to communicate with them, let them know of any updates, any new releases, a way to ask questions, and so forth. So to start out with, in order to do that, they need to make sure, we need to make sure that their organizations are within the Illinois WorkNet Site Management Database, because that's how we associate them with the correct organization and identify them appropriately. So we need to make sure that they are in site management. Once they're in site management, then the staff person can set up their Workforce Professionals account, and with that account, they're able to take the Certified Illinois WorkNet Advisor online course. So that way, we'll be updating once the information of the new process is released. We'll be updating the SYEP course with that information as well. But it's still, the information is still relevant. You can go ahead and start taking that course. It is a self-paced, web-based course. Takes people approximately 5 hours to complete. Some people are a little faster than others. Other people are really detail-oriented and really get into those activities and learning activities. We do want to make sure you have, again, access to the Workforce Professionals Pathway, the policies, the information, guidance, and the forum so you can ask questions. As lessons learned from last year, we do know that there were quite a few individuals that participated that now required special accommodations. So we do have some information available on the Workforce Professionals Pathway regarding special accommodation resources as well. Those that are new to Illinois WorkNet, you can go ahead and to get to the Workforce Pathway, you go to the Illinois WorkNet homepage and you click on Workforce Professionals Pathway, enter here. Now, if you're having some of your partners get set up, some of the staff need to get set up. To get started, you can just simply tell them, go to the Workforce Professionals Pathway, look for this Y icon, and click on the link next to it, and it'll take them to step-by-step instructions that if you're who should participate, setting up your site, setting up your account, and also access to the Workforce Pathway. Okay, so once a person sets up their Illinois WorkNet account in the Workforce Pathway, they're given a role. So with that role, then that means they're given access to the Summer Youth Employment. They're given access to the resources page, which there are a variety of resources here, but specifically the information that they'll need to become familiar with is the information on the Workforce Professionals Pathway related to Summer Youth Employment Program. Okay, so it kind of walks through the basics, steps, becoming familiar with the background information, different types of options for facilitating these activities in the training, all the way through post-assessment and additional materials. Now, as part of that, as I mentioned before, we want to make sure that you're familiar with the background information. So we do recommend that you take a look at the policy. The policy is available through the Workforce Professionals Pathway, but some of the things I want to point out specifically are the participants are required to be registered within Illinois WorkNet. They will complete a pre-assessment and a post-assessment, and they will complete the work readiness activities. Now, this information, once they complete that information, then we can automatically populate IWDS, but we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. As I mentioned before, last year we did have some participants that needed special accommodations. So I do want to point out that the portal is set up to support varying types of special accommodations. So, for example, if a person has a visual impairment, then or so forth, then they can use JAWS and they can use Zoom text. And so the Illinois WorkNet does work with the different, someone that might need some a little assistance. Now, as the workforce investment area, if you do know that you have some individuals maybe with a cognitive disability, they might need some additional assistance. So it's up to the local workforce investment areas, the providers, to make sure that they're providing that when needed. So for example, you might use a group approach for some of your participants, but then for a person that might have needs special accommodations, you might have to set up a person so they go one-on-one through the activities or through the pre- and post-assessment with that individual to help them through the process. These activities are aligned to the policy and the DOL work readiness goals. Last year, we did send the information to DOL, and they approved it. And as a result, we also sent now we're in year 2, so we sent the returning activities to them as well, and they were very excited about it. One of the things that they really liked about this approach was that the second-year students have a new set of activities. So they were really happy about that. And it also is worth saying that DOL does use Illinois WorkNet as a national example. So everyone, you should be very proud for those, especially that participated last year, all of your feedback, and we do appreciate all that. We've been incorporating that and making some changes and enhancements so that this year will be even better than last year. Okay, we do have this alignment document. It is available on the Workforce Professionals Pathway. Same as with last year, we did use a forum, and if you have any policy questions, but it's not really limited to just policy questions, you can ask other questions there as well. But specifically, if you have policy questions, please submit them using the forum. More than likely, if you have a question, somebody else has the same question. So if you can ask your questions via the forum, then we can easily share your information with a larger group of people. Okay, this year we want to point out that you can save yourself time. We don't want you to have to duplicate efforts. One of the things with Illinois WorkNet is that the My Illinois WorkNet account can be linked to the IWDS account. So what that means for you is that whenever it comes to the end of the program and you have to identify whether they attained their work readiness goal or not, you don't have to go back in and manually update IWDS. As long as the Illinois WorkNet account is linked to the IWDS account, we can connect those and pass that information electronically, which in the end will save you time. So to do this, we need to make sure that they're in IWDS before you put them to a customer group. For those that aren't familiar with customer groups, we'll be talking about them in just a minute. Just kind of keep this as a little in the back of your mind, that if you can't add them in before your customer group, it's not the end of the world. It just means a little bit more work because then you have to take them out of the customer group and put them back in. So if you can do that ahead of time and have them in IWDS before you add them to the customer group, that's fabulous. Also, the way we make that connection between the Illinois WorkNet account and the IWDS account is through their Social Security number. So they need to include their Social Security number in their Illinois WorkNet account so that when we get to the IWDS account, they can make a positive match. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we're in year number 2. So we do have 2 types of participants. We have new participants, which means that they did not participate in the Summer Youth Employment Program last year. They may or may not already be an IWDS. They may or may not already have an Illinois WorkNet account. So if they don't have an Illinois WorkNet account, they will need to set one up. If they do have an Illinois WorkNet account, they can update their profile to include their Social Security number, and we can make that match within IWDS. They will complete a pre-assessment, the work readiness activities, and the post-assessment. The information is still the same as last year. It's just enhanced from last year. And I'll go through those enhancements in just one moment. Our second group are returning participants. So these are people that participated last year, and the good thing is they are already in IWDS, so wonderful. And they already have the Online WorkNet account. So what we'll need to do is just make sure that they access their Online WorkNet account, and we have a method to let them know, where they can send in an email, or the workforce professional can look up their password recovery information, and they can easily access, reset their password. Excuse me. They will, excuse me, they will complete a pre-assessment as well, just like the new participants, but they're also asked to complete a pre-survey. Nothing big, just 5 questions, and it's really to get feedback on their experience from last year. So we do ask that they complete that. Very simple, it doesn't take very long. We do they will have access to their last year's activities, or the new activities for new participants. That's kind of like a year one. So they can review those activities, kind of refresh in their minds what they covered last year. So they will have access to those activities, in addition to their new this year activities. They will complete a different set of activities for this program. So the pre-assessment and the post-assessment are different than the new than this group's pre-assessment and post-assessment, because this year's pre-assessment and post-assessment are based on the returning participant activities. Okay, so those that are kind of new to the program and they're not familiar with groups, our customer groups are kind of like containers. You have a whole bunch of participants, and what you're going to do is put them into your groups or your containers of people. You can, however it works best for you. If you wanted to have it by location, if you wanted to have it for a county, if you wanted to have it for new people in one group and returning people in another group, that's fine. That's up to you. We don't tell you how you have to have the groups. You can include, you can mix them all up. You can have just one group for your entire program, for your area. The coordinator will set up the group for your area, okay? And once the coordinator sets up your group, then they will add the workforce professional to that group. See, we keep going back. That's why it's really important that the workforce professionals have their own account and they're set up properly. So once the coordinator sets up the group, then they will add the workforce professionals to the group, and then you can start adding your participants, so that the workforce professionals will be able to see the pre- and post-assessment, and they'll be able to see each of the participants that are enrolled in the program, and so forth. Now, a group can be set up, again, you have the flexibility for your area. You can set up your group so you have one workforce professional for a group of participants, or you can have multiple workforce professionals for that group of participants. It's up to you. Just keep in mind that each of these workforce professionals will be able to see the customer information. Then we need to talk about planning and preparing for the training. So before you make any final decisions on what approach you want to take, we want to take a look at just kind of understanding the program, especially if you're new to the program this year. The program consists of a pre-assessment. Don't want everybody to stress out. Don't want the participants to stress out. This is simply an assessment to find out where they are. What do they already know? One of the nice things about this year, their scores automatically saved into their account. But as an instructor, what you can do this year is pull a report so you can see immediately let's say that, question 3 and 5, a lot of my people missed question 3 and 5. I can make sure that I cover that information clearly whenever we go through the activities, make sure they understand what we're looking for those questions. Now, the activities for the new participants, for both participants, they're both written at the 3rd grade reading level. And they all include a review at the end of the activity. Now, this is a little bit different than last year. We didn't have reviews at the end of the activities this year. They complete the activity, and there's a review. This was based on feedback that we received from our youth from their post survey last year, so we do try to incorporate wherever we possibly can their suggestions, and this is something that they wanted. So in order, before you take the post-assessment, you simply go to all the activities, and since the activities can be completed online, it's not as though they have to relook up all that information. They can, whenever they complete the review, they can copy and paste the answer into their review and save their results. So whenever it's time for the post-assessment, they can simply go to that review, read the question, read the answer, and it's fresh in their mind. They don't have to go searching for anything. Once they complete that review, they can save their information right there online. So I have the go green right next to it. We do understand that, and that's not a good, or it's not possible for some areas. Some areas may need to actually use a paper copy, and that's fine. They can still write their answers and keep those and review those questions before the post-assessment. But the activities will have a printer-friendly format, so you can print those out and have those for your participants. At the end, the participants will self-identify when an activity is complete, and that will help you within your customer group to be able to track where they are in the process. If you're in an instructor-facilitated environment, then you might already know exactly where they are. But if you're using the self-guided approach, where you're not working with them directly in the same room, then this is a way for them to let you know that, yes, I've completed these activities, and I'm still working on the other ones. The next part of this is the post-assessment. Just as like last year, the post-assessment can be taken 3 times. The dates and the scores are recorded for each attempt. It can be taken up to 3 times, but I just want to stress that they need to understand that it can only be taken up to 3 times. They only have to take it once, but they cannot take it any more than 3 times. And that's per the policy, okay? So their goal is to attain the work readiness goal. And so in order to do that, it's helpful. They need to make sure they understand that, yes, you took a pre-assessment, and this was your score on the pre-assessment. What we need to do is make sure that when you take your post-assessment, you score higher on your post-assessment than your pre-assessment. And so that's why we're doing these activities and reviews and so forth. So as long as they can take it up to 3 times, and whatever the highest post-assessment score, as long as it's greater than the pre-assessment score, then they will say yes, they attained their work readiness goal. The only exception is if they get 100% on their pre-assessment, then they must get 100% on their post-assessment in order to reach that goal as well. Okay? So once you have an understanding of how that whole process works, and again, this is kind of a review for some of those that participated last year. But to think about, like, what are your training needs? Do you have primarily new participants? Do you have primarily returning? Do you have a mixture of both? Do you have anyone with special needs? What's going to work out best for your area? Do you have a computer lab that you could do an in-group, like an orientation or and training? If you don't have that type of setup available to you, are you going to use the self-guided approach, which they can find a location that has a computer if they don't have one? We do have the Find a Location Near You available on WorkNet, so you can find a computer lab. So that's the self-guided approach. For an individual, you might have a person that has special needs, so they might require a one-on-one in-person training. And that's, so it's just, you need to look at your group and your situation and find out what will work for you. You might have a hybrid of a couple of these. For example, you might have an in-person group, but you need to mix your new participants with your returning participants, so you don't have one instructor up there going through each and every activity, but everybody's in the same room. They're using the self-guided approach, but yet there's a facilitator there that if they have any questions, they can just raise their hand or put their sticky note up or put their cup up on top of their computer, whatever approach you use to indicate that you do need assistance. So again, that's flexible enough for you, flexible for you. The activities and everything are to have time set up so that it'll take them 2 hours. They're intended to be introductory type activities that can be completed within 2 hours. However, if you have a situation set up where maybe you have courses on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and you want to go through and have a more in-depth, more than just the introductory activities, that is fine. You're more than welcome to do that. Again, I'm going to stress entering the individuals in IWDS, and whenever they set up their Illinois WorkNet account, have them include their Social Security number. It's not required, but that will help you with making that connection with IWDS. Okay, then we set up groups. We add participants to groups, preparing all the instructions, based on my instructor-led versus self-guided, and making sure that the computers meet the system requirements for Illinois WorkNet. So once you determine all your training needs and what you have and the approach you're going to take, then local staff contact the youth participants, and some people use an in-person orientation. Other people call them, send them a letter. Again, whatever works out best for your situation. So now we're taking a look at the next slide, which is, I have it in blue, so it indicates that we're going to take a look at what the youth participant, how they'll access the information. So what we do is they'll go to Illinois WorkNet, and they'll either click on individuals, and actually we've added a Summer Youth Employment Program icon to that splash page. So either way, either go into individuals or just go directly there using the icon. If they go to individuals, then they can just simply look for this youth icon, and then they will go, if they're not logged in, then it'll have them indicate, well, if you already have an Illinois WorkNet account, then go ahead and log in and you can start your activities. Otherwise, make sure you have an appropriate email account, a professional email account, and if you have that, then just make sure that you either have your Illinois WorkNet account or update your Illinois WorkNet account with your current information. You can use this as an opportunity for them to update their information to include their Social Security number or update their account with an appropriate email address. So they have a professional appearance as well. Okay, so once they're logged in, then they will have this checklist of their activities, and this is a little bit different than last year. Well, let me go back a little bit. If they're when they're logged in, they'll go directly to their checklist or their pre-assessment. So once they log in, then if they haven't taken their pre-assessment first, then they will receive a link that they need to complete the pre-assessment. Once they complete their pre-assessment, then they will have access to all their activities. So the pre-assessment is completed one time, and it's recorded into the system. Again, we don't want them to stress out about it because it's simply finding out what do you already know currently. And whenever you take the pre-assessment, it's simply radio buttons. So you can select one answer. There's 22 questions for the new participants and 25 for the returning participants. One of the things that's new this year is that you'll be able to print out a group summary so you can see which questions the participants missed or got right. So you can see if there's an overwhelming, they really don't know this content, they really didn't know this information. I may want to spend an extra couple minutes on that or just point that out, that's something that they should know. We do have pre- and post-assessment answers on the Workforce Professionals pathway. Again, that is only for workforce professionals. We want to make sure that we keep those protected so that they don't get in the wrong hands and share them with everybody. We do have a pre- and post-assessment available in the Workforce Pathway that is a printer-friendly version. So if you have a person that has special needs, that you can go ahead and simply go through those questions, mark their answers. In some cases, maybe they can just go ahead and mark their answers in the pre-assessment, post-assessment themselves on the computer. In some cases, maybe they might have to have assistance with that. Okay, so once they complete the pre-assessment, then they'll get their score, and they'll be able to access the various activities. One of the things that we've changed a little bit this year is we're using more of icons for visual cues. We do understand and keep in mind that some of these icons they might have a visual impairment, so they can't tell the colors very well. So in addition to the visual cue with green, like you've completed the activity, we have yellow and not that indicates that you have not completed the activity. So there's only two statuses, either complete or not complete. If you're complete, it will tell you that it's complete. We have the word spelled out here, and the icon turns green. They can access the activities by clicking on the icon, or they can click on the link, and it will take them through these activities. Once a person has completed their pre-assessment or post-assessment, self-identified that they've completed the activities, then you'll be able to, I don't know if monitor is the right word, or just track their progress through this program. So you'll be able to see their pre and post-assessment scores and when they completed it, and their activity status, and whether or not they attained their work readiness goal and print reports. One of the things I do want to stress here is that last year we had some individuals that completed they took the pre-assessment, they went through the process of doing the activities, and then whenever they got to their post-assessment, they forgot their username and password. Even though we have places where they ask them to write it down, we have different business card handouts, we have full sheets that they can write down their username and password, there's always one person, it seems like, that always forgets their username and password. So we have a couple options. They can use password recovery, where they enter their email account, and then it will send them the information, a link, so that they can reset their password. But let's say you're in a facilitated environment, and you have 3 people that forgot their passwords, and they can't access their email, and who knows. The instructor or the workforce professional can go to the customer group, and within the customer group you will be able to see their username, date of birth, and the answer to their secret questions. Those are 3 things that are needed, and you can give that information to the participant, and the participant can use that information and reset their password and be able to immediately access their information. Okay, so we've gone through the process. They've completed the activities. They have been in their work experience, and towards the end of their program, they will need to take the post-assessment. Now, I do want to point out a couple things. First of all, again, as I mentioned before, they only have 3 chances to take the post-assessment and get higher on the post-assessment than the pre-assessment. According to the policy, it needs to be completed towards the end of their work experience. And so we need to make sure that although the post-assessment is available to them immediately after, along with their activities, that's one of the changes that we've made this year based on requests from the field. Although it is made available to them, they need to make sure that they are not to take the post-assessment until they are told to do so. And to drive that point home, we have a huge stop sign there, and it says, "Do not start until you are told to do so. Results may be, or your results may be disqualified." So we're trying to drive the point home that we just want to make sure. So if you could make sure that they know that too, then that is fabulous. before they take the post-assessment, again, remember, we want them to do better on the post-assessment than they did on the pre-assessment, especially if they got lucky answering a few questions on the pre-assessment. So we want to make sure that they complete or at least review or use the review questions for each activity as a refresher. Remember, especially if they're completing them online or on paper, they already have those answers, so they can simply go to the activity, click on the review, and take a look at those answers and help them study or prepare for the post-assessment. Now, we want them to do really good on the post-assessment for multiple reasons. Well, obviously, we want them to learn about work readiness, the information that's included in the work readiness activities, but we also have a certificate of completion. So whenever they complete their post-assessment and that score is higher on the post-assessment than the pre-assessment, then they will be able to print a certificate of completion. And the idea is that although right now we're talking about just summer youth, that we can use this certificate in other areas within Illinois WorkNet as well. With as we're always with Illinois WorkNet, we're always adding more and more enhancements. So the idea is that you're going to see more and more of these activities with the opportunity to have a certificate of completion. And so that in a tough environment, with a competitive job environment, we want to give them every possibility, anything that we can do to help show that they are a good candidate for a position. And so that's why we have the certificate of completion. I would like to get your feedback on the certificate of completion, because let me go ahead and use my whiteboard. I want to put a little, there we go, my little stamp up here. I do want to point out that with the certificate of completion, we do have a their name, the date, and the post-assessment score, okay? And the reason for having that post-assessment score is we don't want to overstate what they've done, because, and also if we tell them up front that, okay, at the end of this program, you're going to have a certificate of completion that you can show your employer to show that, yes, I've gone through these different, I've gone through the workplace skills and, the different preparations, especially with the second year program, with the transferable skills and money management, professional networking, those type of things, to show that, yes, I did really good, I got a good score on my post-assessment, and this is something that I can be proud of. So if you wouldn't mind, just give me a little feedback on what you think about a certificate of completion. Is that something that would be valuable to you? What are your thoughts? We will have a polling question, and at the end, some polling questions for you to answer. And you can also, if you need a moment to digest and think about that, or you just don't really want to, you're kind of shy and don't want to put your information in the chat, then that's fine. We'll give you an opportunity to provide feedback and polling questions as well. Okay. Now, as I mentioned before, with the, I've said it several times, that once they complete the post-assessment, then we'll need to include that information in IWDS as far as if they attain their work readiness goal. So in order to do that, they have to score higher on the post-assessment than their pre-assessment, and you can do that automatically, so save you time. Once they do it, it's done. We can pass that information directly to IWDS, and you don't have to worry about it for entering any more information in. Now, I mentioned that we need to have them in IWDS before we have them in our customer group. Now, if that's just not possible, because we know everything doesn't just work out exactly how we wish it would, if a participant was added to a group before they were added in IWDS, or maybe they didn't have their Social Security number in there, that's okay, because what you can do is just remove them from the group and add them back in. And whenever you add them to that back in, the Illinois WorkNet account will link up to their IWDS account, and we'll have that connection, and they can automatically send that information to IWDS. Now, we know that that doesn't always work for everybody, so you can manually update IWDS You can print out a report so that you can see exactly what, which students attain their work readiness goal. You can export it into, I believe, an Excel file, and then that can be used to manually update IWDS. Okay. Here. Okay. So I do see there are some comments. Thank you for your comments on the certificate of completion. Okay. Okay, let's see here. So the next thing, now keep in mind that this is not released as of today. We are, making sure, we want to make sure that everything translates well from paper to the web. And so we're, continuously going through the testing process, making sure we have all the bugs and all the kinks worked out before we give it to you. So, but there are some things that we can do in the meantime. So again, think about, do you have new participants? Do you have returning participants? Do you have anyone with special needs? Or what kind of, are you going to use an in-group process, self-guided, a hybrid of those two together? Okay, is there anything that we can do to start entering people into IWDS? Do we need to make sure that the computers that we're going to use meet the Illinois WorkNet system requirements? It says here that we have the release date for Monday, May 17th, and what I need to clarify is it will be released the week of this of May 17th. So, excuse me, we will send a message out to everyone to let you know, an announcement to let you know that it's released, and you can get started. So once that's released, then you can set up your groups and add your workforce professionals. Then you can start adding your Summer Youth Employment Program participants if they already have an Illinois WorkNet account, and get your instructions or your approach ready for your training. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to share my computer screen. So you're going to see a gray box in the middle, and that's okay, because I'm just getting everything ready so that you can see my demonstration. Okay, so this is just, we're going to give you a little bit a flavor of what to see, what you'll see. Okay, so as a workforce professional, we're taking a look at our workforce professionals pathway. Now I'm logged in as myself, so you're going to see a little bit more information that you would as logged in as you, just because I have more of the statewide information. Okay, so from my WorkNet homepage, my Workforce Professionals pathway, and again I want to stress this is just for workforce professionals. Please do not have your students accidentally set up a Workforce Professionals account. We just don't want that. So then we'll go to our customer groups. Now, to add a customer group, we have we had the old SYEP Summer Youth Employment Program groups and groups from last year. We have those in a lockdown mode so that we don't accidentally use those and get everything confused with last year's skill attainment versus this year. Yes, I can enlarge let me zoom in. That better? Okay. I want to zoom in. Let me know if that, okay, good. Thank you very much for that feedback. Okay, so what you're going to do is you'll see an area here for SYEP 2010, and I already have, your LWIA will already be selected and so forth. So whenever you want to add a new group, all you do is click on the add a new Workforce Professionals group. We have some instructions. They'll be updated once this is released with any new information. Okay, and I'm just going to call this returning. So it just depends on what how you want to describe your groups. Okay. So it just simply adds my group. You can see that if I want to add workforce professionals, I can do so. I just click on Add a New Workforce Professional. I can do that. I can, whoever I add to the workforce as a workforce professional, that means they'll be able to see all the customer information. So I'm going to click on Add a New Customer, and whenever I do that, I'm going to get a little pop-up window, and it will tell me that it'll default to individual, so I'm just going to search for myself here. You can search on first name, last name, email address, and so based on the search criteria that you entered, you'll see that I have a number of people and that use Intelliger, and you'll see that you'll get a great big red, hopefully it's coming through to you, red kind of like, not necessarily a warning, but just to make it very clear that this person doesn't have their Social Security number in there, and if it doesn't have the Social Security number, then it can't make that link to IWDS. So I'm going to go ahead and select this item. It has a fake Social Security number in there right now, and if you notice that it uses the star, so it covers up that information so that you that information is protected, so they shouldn't have to worry about that. Okay, so then whenever they're added to the group, an email is sent to that customer to let them know that they've been added to that group. And also we're sending that email to them so that they will receive a page where they can automatically click on the link and automatically update their information, either reset their password or just simply update their information as needed. Okay, so I would refresh the page. I actually just clicked on another group, and so whenever I'm in this group, then you can see that here's my information. I have my address information, and you can see my username, birth date, and my answer to my secret question, as well as my my scores. Okay, in this particular one, I haven't taken the post-assessment in this account. So this is where you'll see all that tracking information and be able to print reports. Now, whenever you get a Workforce Professionals Pathway account and you're allowed access to this account, then you have a public viewer and you automatically have access to the resources page. I could get through this to clicking on resources, or let me go back to my home page, and you will see that we have the Summer Youth Employment Program icon. They can simply click on that link and it'll take them to this page. Now for the time being, I have these accordions open, but what you can do is just click on them and they will open and close the accordion so you can see the information. The idea is that we want to provide information so that you're not searching forever to find the information, but it is easy for you to scan the page and find what you're looking for. So the first part is to understand before you begin. So we have the policy information that you can click here to see the DCO policy. We have some guidelines, information on accessibility, and what we'll be doing is adding the archived webinar. It'll be one of it might be this archived webinar, but you'll have that available there for future reference. We have all the information on setting up groups. Coordinator sets up groups. They add workforce professionals, and workforce professionals add participants. Once you do that, then you go down to completing the work readiness activities in your work experience. We have some suggestions for the instructor-led approach. We have it for the new participants and returning participants. We also have a self-guided approach. What you can do is just simply click. You can print this page and literally check these off. Just a reminder, we know everybody is very busy, and just it's hard to think of everything, so we wanted some things for you to be able to easily check off and not have to worry about it too much. Okay, one of the things that we do suggest is based on feedback from last year, is to have either another computer or another window open with the Summer Youth Employment Program, your customer group. And so that way, if you have 3 people that have forgotten their username and password, you can easily look up their date of birth and all their answers so that they can provide that to them so they can reset their password. So we have the different activities. We have glossary. We have that pre and post assessment with the answers and without the answers. Suggested times. Right now, these links go to the previous activities. More than likely, I'm going to disable these links just because I don't want it to cause any confusion. So I'll be doing that today. So we just walk through the process of all the different activities, the self-guided approach. Again, we have the check-off list. We also have a customizable information sheet so that you can put in your own local contact information. So if they're not there right with you, then they have that information available to contact you. We have the post-assessment information. Again, reminds you that you can only take it 3 times. As well as the pre and post assessment for with answers, without answers for the new and the returning. We have all links to all kinds of printable documents, tutorials. We'll be adding more videos, especially for those new, for the returning activities that have been added, as well as we have the Summer Youth Employment Program icon that's available that you can use in your own materials if you'd like to do so. Okay, so that's the look at the Workforce Professionals Pathway, and I'm going to speed it up just a little bit because I am getting short on time. With the individuals, okay, now we're going to take a look at this from the youth perspective, and let me zoom in a little bit so that it's easier to see. You can either click on individuals or you can click on the Summer Youth Employment Program. Right now, this goes to a page. It will say to them, you know, are you new to the Summer Youth Employment Program, or do you already have your do you already have an Illinois WorkNet account? If you do, they can just click on that link and log in and go directly to their checklist and get going on that. Otherwise, this is just as a quick note to let them know that the activities will be available next week, so they can see it next week. But I'm going to go ahead and I am going to use my little cheat icon, not icon, but URL to get to the page so I can just give you a little flavor of what the activities look like. So let me go ahead and go to this page. And right now this is my shortcut icon, so it'll look more cleaned up whenever you guys actually use it. But you'll see that the activity says complete. It's green for when it is complete. Whenever it's not complete, it is yellow. If I want to, I can click on the link, the information bubble, and it gives me just a real brief overview of what I'm going to be learning with this activity. And I either can click here to enter the activity, or I can just simply click on the icon. This activity is a little bit different than the other ones because you can choose either the skills interest profiler or the skills profiler. You don't have to do both. So it's broken down to, again, we want the 1, 2, 3s, simply complete the activity, complete the review. And for the actual link, not my cheat link, we have a step 3 that says, check the box to let your instructor or case manager know that you've completed this activity. So what they can do is they will just open up the accordion, and they can go in here and then start answering some of the questions. So they can just type this. Oops, I need to type. Okay, and then I can save my notes, and then I can come back to that later. It tells me that my notes have been saved, and I'll be able to look at that later. So I can do that for each of these. Okay. For the review, I can go through, and there's a little quick tip that tells me that, all you have to do is, for the answer, what should you consider when you're exploring careers? It says for the answer, go to this page. I can click on this link, and it opens up into a new window. Now, this is based on feedback from one of the LWIAs, is that they, had a few students that were kind of confused with going back and forth within, and losing their place in their activities. So we have it opening up into a new window. So what you can do is, even when I click on a new link, it's still going to open up in that same window. So I can, whatever my question was, I can find the answer, I can just copy it, and I can paste it in my my area, and then I can save my activity notes, and then I'm good to go, and I should be able to see my information here. Oops. Maybe I might have to refresh my page with this particular link. Okay, so one of the things that we do have available as well is that this will be available at the top and the bottom, so whenever they have their activities open, they can easily navigate between the different pages. So we have the previous activity, we can go to the next activity, okay, and then we can go to the checklist. So that's the same, that's a basic navigation for this. Again, this is just on, this isn't a live site that I'm using right this minute, but what we'll do is we'll have the stop sign up ahead of the post-assessment so that you can, reminder, do not complete it, and if they pass, if they get a higher score in their post-assessment than their pre-assessment, then they will be able to print a certificate of completion, and we took a look at that. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the webinar, and I have some questions for you. I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone line. Please feel free to ask questions via the chat. Also, you can
the floor mode is on. To request the floor, enter
also,
star,
you can go
then
ahead
pound.
and answer the polling questions as well. And so I'm going to kind of keep an eye over here for anyone that might have a question. In order to ask a question, if you're on the phone with us, is to press star pound. And you'll turn pink on my screen, and I can go ahead and give the floor to you. Otherwise, you can ask questions via the chat. And I'm just going to go through these questions. So go ahead and answer them. But for the very first one is that the participants, new and returning, you can have them in separate, or you can have them in the same group. With the new and returning participants, do they complete the same activities? In a way, it's kind of a trick question, because the new participants will use the same activities in pre- and post-assessment that was used last year. The returning participants have access to those activities, but actually this year they are completing a new set of activities with a different pre- and post-assessment. Okay, I probably sound like a broken record, but again, they have to have your social number in both the IWDS and the Illinois WorkNet account in order to make that connection with those accounts. With the password recovery, you can have an email message sent to your account to reset your password. The workforce professional, or the other option is the workforce professional can provide you with your username, date of birth, answer your secret question in order to reset your where the participant can reset their own password. Okay, it's good to see what type of approaches that you're going to use. Again, if you have any feedback on what really worked out well for you with whatever approach that you took, please share your ideas in the forum. I think that's great, especially for those programs that are starting out early. And in other areas they have later programs, so you can go ahead. I'm sure everyone would appreciate that as well. Okay. So how prepared do you feel for using the Illinois WorkNet program activities and assessments? I do see that we had one person from yesterday that didn't feel so prepared. But if you're in a situation that you don't feel so prepared, we do have 2 more webinars left, and we'll have this archived webinar as well. If you're like me, you're a type person that sounds pretty good, but I actually have to get down there and type and use my own hands, and you'll feel much more comfortable. But the thing is that whenever you get in there and you start doing it, that's fabulous. But if you have any questions, feel free to use that forum, because again, if you have that question, more likely somebody else has the same darn question. Okay, so again, make sure that you Good point. Okay, one of my youth really liked the auditory component because he's not a strong reader. One of the things that we do have videos, but we also have Browse Aloud, and that information is available within LMI WorkNet. And you'll see on the page where it says Make This Website Talk. You can download Browse Aloud, and what it will do is it will read the text to you. So whenever you click on it, and the person can, especially if they have their own flash drive or it's on their own computer, they can set up, they can choose the type of voice they like. They can choose the speed if they need it to be slower reading or faster reading. They can choose those options. They can even choose different accents and stuff like that, especially for maybe a person that has English as a second language. That can be very helpful. So thank you very much for bringing that up. I do appreciate that. Okay, so thank you for answering those questions. If anyone has any questions, so far I've been jibber-jabbering, and I haven't seen a whole lot of questions come in. So again, I have kept you for an hour. Yes. So if you have any questions, please use, we do have one thing. I do see a person that's on the phone. Okay, here, you should have the floor now.
Hi, I have a question about, so if we were on this webinar, does that make us a coordinator, or are you the coordinator, or is someone else the coordinator that adds workforce development professionals?
We have a listing of LMI WorkNet coordinators. And so what area of the state are you? Do you know your workforce investment area?
We're in Chicago.
In Chicago, okay.
There's probably several.
Yeah, okay. So what we can do is if you need, if you would send could you send your information to either, you can respond back to me to the email that I sent to you earlier, or send it to info@, and we can make sure that we put you in touch with your coordinator.
Okay.
Because Chicago's a little bit different because we have all the youth providers. So we'll just need to make sure that we have you set up and have your group set up and make sure you get access to your group.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Good question. Anybody else? Okay. Well, with that, I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and I do appreciate you taking the time to join us on this webinar. So have a great day. Thank you very much.